Eso.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the January 19th, 2016 regular called board meeting. This is our first one back at the district office since August, so I'd like to remind board members of the microphone, the on and off. Please turn it on when you're speaking so that the recording picks it up. And we might remind you if you don't. So, and also for recording purposes, speak into it. Just a gentle reminder there. Happy New Year. Welcome again to the oldest meeting of this school year. Hopefully the only one that's this frigid. It's nice and warm in here, so I appreciate that. There has been appropriate public notification. I saw the PDF, and there is confirmation of a quorum as all 7 members are present. I know that I can speak for the other board members in welcoming Sylvia Harrison. She was sworn in last week as our new representative from District 1, and we appreciate her willingness to serve and willingness to work with us on the issues of children in public schools in Fairfield County. So once again, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and I'm sure that all the others will congratulate you and welcome you as well. Do I have a motion to enter executive session for legal, contractual, personnel matters?
Madam Chair, I make a motion we go into executive session to discuss legal, personnel, and contractual matters.
Thank you, Mr. Pritt.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The executive session will, the public session will reconvene no later than 6:30. Thank you. Brown, I think we got it. Mr. Miller got it.
What?
Got to get connected over here.
Same thing here, connected to that.
Yeah, no idea.
Don't hit it.
I'm cute.
I don't know when it did it wrong before, but you
Passion.
Yeah, it is. Entertain a motion to exit executive session during which no action was taken.
Madam Chair, make a motion to exit executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Those in favor of exiting executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Again, welcome to the January 19th, 2016 regular called board meeting. We'll move forward with the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
I'll stand for the... Back over here.
pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
While you stand, if you remain standing for a moment of silence and reflection. Thank you.
We'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented, providing I get a second.
Thank you, Mr. Miller and Ms. Harrison. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Move on to public comment.
Madam Chair, I've received no public comment for this evening.
Thank you. We'll move on to D, presentations and recognition.
Madam Chair, the members of the board, first of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Brown, who is kind of working very closely with this elite ladies effort, and an opportunity for us to help provide a little guidance and direction and some support to our young ladies in grades 7 through 12. As part of that initiative, they had a brilliant idea, and I hate I didn't come up with it myself and do it with the Bowtie Club, but they decided to do a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. writing contest. And so those young ladies had the opportunity to present submissions in the form of poetry or in the form of essays. And I think she will present the various categories, but I had the opportunity also to be one of the readers of the competition, and I'm not quite sure how it was drafted, but I had the hard job of scoring it. So if you didn't win, don't blame me. I did my best. It was very hard because all of you did a very good job, but I think we are going to recognize the top 3 individuals from each category. And let me say this, before we recognize the winners, let me go and recognize all, are you presenting something to all of the students? Okay, all right.
If I can get you to come down.
Okay.
And if we can get our mentors to please come forward.
And before she says this, let me say that, all of these young ladies are winners in my eyes because they took the time to write either a poetry piece or an essay. And I know very often our young people say, well, I'm not going to be graded on it. I'm not necessarily going to do it. And so they did it just for the intrinsic value of trying to learn more about Dr. King and his struggle and also be a part of the competition. So let's give all a round of applause. Okay.
From Fairfield Middle School, a certificate of participation to Cameron Brown. Certificate of participation to Martha Gibson.
Mark, I love to take pictures. You got Good job, good job.
Certificate of participation to Jasmine Killian. And now recognizing our top 4. In 4th place from Fairfield Middle School, 8th grader Tiana Foster. And along with the certificate of participation, she's also receiving a gift card from Chick-fil-A.
Good job.
In 3rd place, from Fairfield Middle School, Chatara Johnson.
addition to a certificate of participation, she also receives a Bath and Body Works gift card. Our first place runner-up, 7th grader from Fairfield Middle School, Martia Gatson. In addition to her certificate of participation, Martia will receive a gift card to our local nail salon. And our first place and winner from Fairfield Middle School, 7th grader, Anaya Ruff. Anaya Ruff shared an essay on her dream for herself and her peers. She is also the winner of a 10-inch tablet and a Forever 21 gift card. On to Fairfield Central High School. Certificate of participation, Ms. Tamia Owens. Certificate of participation, Creonshay Weldon. Certificate of participation, Ms. Montegia Johnson. And certificate of participation, Ms. Megan Lawhorn.
Good job.
And now our 4th place winner from Fairfield Central High School, 10th grader, Brianna Milton. In addition to her certificate of recognition, she also receives a Chick-fil-A gift card. Third place from Fairfield Central High School, 12th grader, Ms. Mia Rouse. Mia is also the recipient of a Bath and Body Works gift card.
Good job. Good job. Good job.
Our second place and runner-up, 9th grader, Miss Nikayla Douglas. And our winner at Fairfield Central High School read a quote by Dr. King and answered how that quote impacted her. She responded to, "Not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great, because greatness is determined by service." Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the winner for Fairfield Central High School, 9th grader Zanaya Mobley. Zanaya is also the recipient of a 10-inch tablet and a gift card from Forever 21. We want to thank, on behalf of all the Elite Lady mentors, principals, our judging staff, we want to thank all of our sponsors who donated the gifts that were given to all of our MLK essay writing contest participants. Thank you.
And hold, let me say one final thing. You know, I want to thank all these mentors for giving up their time to work with our young ladies. And, you know, very often people talk about what support our young people need, but aren't necessarily willing to give that support. And so it comes at a sacrifice, and I appreciate them. And I know, I don't know if any of them even have young daughters. I mean, probably none of them have young daughters, but they understand the importance of supporting our young girls. So let's give them a round of applause.
Dr. Green. I'd like to comment that I think the girls all look very professional, and I think y'all look great.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, next thing we have is South Carolina School Boards Association Board Member Service Award. And today we'll be recognizing one of our veteran board members. He's been around a minute or two. Mr. Henry Miller has been recognized by the South Carolina School Board Association for 10 years of school board service. This year, 50 school board members from throughout the state will receive special lapel pins for reaching the 10 or 15-year benchmark. Veteran school board members provide vision and valuable leadership for school districts. South Carolina School Board Association and the local boards are happy to honor Mr. Miller and these other individuals who have reached that level of service. So join me in recognizing Mr. Miller. Come on down. You take a picture with me, John.
You know, I don't know. I love the camera too. What's up? Y'all surprised me on this one right here? This is a surprise right here. I know Ms. Mack know all about it, but this is a surprise. Surprise me on this one right here.
Before we get settled, just want to remind you to place on the agenda for next board meeting.
Read your mind.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Got it.
Okay.
Just skip.
Board Appreciation Month, an opportunity for us to recognize our board members for their continued service. And so we're going to start with Kelly Miller Elementary School, and each one of our schools have been assigned a board member, and in some instances we had multiple schools assign a board member. And so we'll start with Kelly Miller Elementary School, and their board member to recognize was Ms. McDaniel.
All right. All right.
So Mr. Sturgis is presenting that on behalf of Kelly Miller Elementary.
So Daddy, please come down. On behalf of Ms. Woodard and the entire Kelly Miller family, I present you with a small token of appreciation for all you do for the students of Fairfield County School.
Thank you so much.
And next, we are going to ask UD Elementary School to come down and recognize Ms. Sylvia Harrison. And we are buttering you up early. Since you were new on this thing here, we want to get you in good spirits. So we're going to recognize Ms. Sylvia Harrison.
Well, on behalf of the Giger family, we just want to say welcome and congratulations. I look forward to meeting with you. You've already stopped by and we saw you on yesterday, so thank you.
Yeah. All right. Next we have McCoy Liston School of Technology, recognizing the board member, Mr. Henry Miller.
Come on down.
All right, man.
License.
Trying to leave me out, Doc.
Okay, congratulations. On behalf of McCory Liston School of Technology and the entire Fairfield County School District, we wanted to say congratulations to all school board members, but a special thank you to you. And thank you for your 10 years of service.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, take care.
Thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
And from Fairfield Middle School, we'll be recognizing Mr. Carl Jackson.
Reverend Jackson. Happy School Board Appreciation Month to you, and thank you for all you do for Fairfield County Schools.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. And now Fairfield Magnet School for Math and Science will recognize Mr. William Frick.
All right now.
Mr. Frick, we really appreciate all that you do for the students and Fairfield Magnet School for the Math and Science family. Say thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for what you do. Yeah. And Fairfield Elementary School will recognize Ms. Paula Hartman.
All right.
Come on back.
All right.
She is a wand.
On behalf of the Fairfield Elementary School Stellar Stingrays, we want to say thank you, stop out and visit us, and we appreciate all that you do. This is a small token.
That is so bright. And I love the card. Rick, did you break it?
I broke it. I'm sorry. I think it's Mr. Miller. He already broke it.
And last but certainly not least, we'll have a combination from all of our secondary schools, Fairfield Central, Fairfield Career and Technology Center, and Gordon Honors Academy. We'll recognize our board chair, Ms. Beth Reed.
Awesome.
I already received my other part. I said, we don't want to leave it, though.
We missed that basket thing this year. Yes, yeah, our basket did look good.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, great, thank you. Thank you.
I've been bus over from here.
Ms. Reed, if I may take a point of personal privilege, and let me say to all the board members that I personally appreciate all the support that you have provided me over the last 4 years. This is truly a partnership that cannot be successful unless we have a supportive board. And so I want to say publicly that I have been very impressed with the professionalism and the commitment that has been displayed by the Fairfield County School District over these last 4 years, and look forward to many, many more to come. So, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you all, the schools. We certainly appreciate it. Look forward to January to see what surprises we get. So thank you so much. We appreciate it again. Move on to the board minutes. And looking for approval for November 17th, 2015, as well as December 15th, 2015.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the board minutes from the November and the December meeting.
I second it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Those in favor of the approval of the minutes from December 15th regular call board meeting and November 17th regular call board meeting, signify by the raising of the right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposition? Abstention? Opposition 1, abstention 1. Thank you. We'll move to the superintendent's report.
Madam Chair, members of the board, first of all, let me bring your attention to the monthly newsletter that goes out, and Ms. Wallace continues to do an outstanding job there. First of all, if you look on the first page, I'll be hosting a town hall meeting in the Midford area on January 28th. I think this is my first time going out to Midford, and I've been just about everywhere throughout the county, but hadn't made it to Midford. And so we're looking forward to going out there, taking all the great news about what's going on in Fairfield County School District. Also, you'll see that we have a feature on Ms. Harrison, our newly elected representative, in addition to many other wonderful things going on throughout the district. So once again, still very pleased at that product. I wanted to brief you on the Junior Beta Club convention that occurred this past weekend down in Myrtle Beach, or this past week. I think they traveled down Wednesday or Thursday. And all of our elementary schools, in addition to our middle schools, participated in a convention. And we had several students and groups to place. And so I'm going to take a little time to really highlight some of these individuals, even though we'll probably bring them back next month to be formally recognized. But Geek Elementary School placed third in the Spotlighter Club, which was an effort to highlight all of the club service and learning projects accomplished throughout the year. Kelly Miller Elementary School, they had a third place winner in arts and craft, Ms. Natalie Jackson, in addition to a third place technology team competition that included Anaya Armstrong, Dejana Burden, DeAndre Cook, Abia Fee, Jaden Gardner, Tyler Isaac, Natalie Jackson, Tatiana Kennedy, Tevin McDaniel, Kirsten Paget, Devin Seville, and Devin Suba. And finally, you probably have seen that Kelly Miller Elementary School has a very, very accomplished band and drumline. And the drumline participated, and they were awarded top 5 finalists in the group talent competition. And those individuals included Jalen Davis, Jaden Gardner, Jimya Goings, Michelle Herring, Tatiana Kennedy, Tevin McDaniel, and Devin Suba. From McCoy-Liston Elementary School, we had a few winners. McCoy-Liston placed first place in the banner competition. They placed first place in the Spotlighter Club competition. And they had a third place winner in Jalen Robinson, who had a third place art submission for a rendition of B.B. King. And Ryan Crumpton had a third place art submission for a rendition of Maya Angelou. From Fairfield Magnet School, they had a couple of winners as well. Erica Kelly, she placed second place for a rendition of a bobcat. And Sarah Pullen had a second place submission, and she won for the submission of a horse. So they had an animal theme going on at the Magnet School. And last but certainly not least, Fairfield Middle School competed in the Quiz Bowl competition and came in second out of 52 teams. Let me say that one more time. Make sure the media gets that. Fairfield Middle School went down to the Beta Club competition, and out of 52 teams, They placed second. The members of that team were Nathaniel Adams, Daniel Childress, Sheldon Johnson, and Devani Patel. As a result of that second place finish, first, second, and third place teams will have the opportunity to compete at the National Beta Club Convention in New Orleans on June 23rd or 26th. And they absolutely are going to go. Pick up games. And we're going to make sure they go to that. And so we are very proud of all of our individuals who went down and participated in the Beta Club Convention. And if there is any doubt that we don't have talented students in Fairfield County who can compete with students from anywhere, then let that doubt now rest. Okay, so outstanding job. And let's give all of our winners a round.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
what was the second place for Fairfield Middle School? What was that in?
That's the quiz bowl competition, not a scholars bowl.
That's what they asked, a lot of academic questions?
Yes. Any kind of question.
Okay, Madam Chair, I just want to correct Dr. Green on something or clarify on something. There was never any doubt whether our students could do it or not do it. The conversation that tends to circle this board is about the funding and the financing of our children going to the Beta Club. I just want to congratulate all of you all for representing well. I usually have people from across the state text me and let me know whenever you guys are there and that you're doing well. And you know, we just want to try to keep up the good work, and y'all need to keep asking our superintendent to make sure that the funding is there. And I continue to say and I continue to echo that when our children go out to compete, that's a lot of work, that's a lot of stress, and they should not have to pay one dime out of their pocket. So again, congratulations.
I did owe that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Green.
Next thing I have, Madam Chair, you know, as we discussed a couple of months ago, there are several items that we'd like to present for renovations this year. And just to name a couple, we have some foldables in the rear of the middle school that I think is time for us to replace with more permanent classrooms. In addition, there are some foldables at Kelly Middle School that I would like to see replaced. And so before we can really move forward in terms of assessing what the ultimate cost of those projects will be, we needed to get an architect on board to give us some designs, and so we can eventually get that out to some construction firms to see exactly how much it would cost, so we'll see what our capacity is. We went through a very exhaustive process in terms of putting this project just for architectural services out for bid. After receiving all of those submissions, we established an architectural committee. That committee reviewed all of the submissions and they whittled it down to a short list, if you will. I think we ultimately had 3 firms to come in and present to the committee. The committee went through and scored them, and now we have come with a recommendation to the board. And so it is my proposal that the board approve the firm FW Architects with the contract to design potentially the middle school renovations and potentially the Kelly Middle School renovations. And quite honestly, if we see that there are some additional renovations that may need to occur while they're on site, we may get them to potentially do a sketch or two for us on that as well.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Let's go ahead and get a motion and second for discussion, procedural purposes. If you'll hang on to that thought.
Thank you. My iPad's still not moving.
We'll go out eventually.
Madam Chair.
I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation regarding the architecture and engineering services.
Madam Chair, I second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Mr. Frick, second from Pastor Jackson. So we will open the floor for discussion and questions. Ms. Hartman,
Yes,
You should make.
microphone on.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Maybe
Um,
it needs to be a little closer.
right here.
Okay. Maybe a little, that's better.
I was wondering why this wasn't brought up maybe at the previous meeting of what these thoughts were ahead of time.
Could you ask the question again, Ms. Hart?
Is there a reason why this wasn't brought up to us ahead of time, that you were pursuing to get these bids put out, bring it up to the board prior to that?
And so I just don't remember exactly what I discussed last time, Ms. Hartman, but I'm sure I told the board that we would have to eventually get someone to come in and give us designs before we could have any idea of what the cost of those projects would be. And so from the initial presentation of what we hope to see happen as a result of those additional capital funds, we established that we had to get architects on board in order to determine what the cost of those projects would be.
Right offhand, the only ones I remember you made reference to about moving some trailers out of different areas, and that's all I recall offhand. Is there any reason why something can't be brought to us ahead of time before you pursue something?
Well, there's no reason. As I said, when I presented these projects to you, I thought it was clear that we would have to get architects on board to determine the cost of a project, because we would have no design. And so, as you said, you remember us discussing the removal of trailers from Fairfield Middle School, for example. And so as we removed those trailers, we were going to construct more permanent classrooms, i.e. a renovation. And before we could determine what that renovation would look like, obviously we would have to bring some architects on board to give us some designs.
Well, you didn't give us any idea when that was going to happen. You just said those are some ideas of what you were going to use some of that money for. That $2.25 million. That's all I recall.
Madam Chair, I'd like to follow Ms. Hartman's question just for clarity and to record sake. And I understand the push. However, I think it's very much wrong and disrespectful to the board, to keep the board out of matters. But when we had this conversation in November, I distinctly remember Mr. Frick raising the question of Mr. Green Dr. Green bringing us a listing of what the money is going to be spent for. I don't think no one is saying, at least I'm not, saying that the decisions are bad or not in the best interest of the district, but just being decent and being in order and following the proper protocol, the board should have approved the project. And then the bids would have gone out, requesting the RFP or RFQs for these services. So I would just like to express concern about the way that we're conducting business. It's not appropriate.
So Madam Chair, if I may respond to that. What I communicated to Mr. Frick was that before we proceeded with any of the renovation projects, I would bring that back to the board. Now, I would not be in a position to bring back to the board a cost estimate on any project until we bring architects on board to give us some kind of design. I'm not able to come to the board and say that a renovation at Fairfield Middle School is going to cost $1.5 million unless we get someone to come on board and give a design, bid that out to some construction firms, and then I would bring that to the board.
But Dr. Lee, though, that is not what I'm talking about. Okay. What I'm talking about is the board approving the project, period. What? You bring it to us that you are wanting to add classrooms to Kelly Miller, which I commend you if they're really needed there, just like I'm sure they're needed at the elementary school and wherever else. My issue is the fact that you did not bring us the projects in advance. You didn't even tell us what the projects were. You said, I have some ideas, I might use it for this, I might use it for that. You didn't bring it to us as a project that was going to be explored.
Okay.
And if I recall, excuse me, Madam Chair, you said that you would bring it forward to us before you did anything, as far as the different projects that you had in mind.
So what I said, Ms. Hartman, was before we proceeded with any renovations, I would bring that to the board for approval.
I don't recall the word being before you proceeded. I just recall you saying that you would bring any ideas that you had to the board before doing anything.
Any other questions or discussion?
Just one other thing for clarity, Madam Chair, the money to pay for this project is coming from the money that was transferred from the general fund to the special projects fund.
From capital improvement, yes.
And
Capital improvement.
And the entire project will not exceed the $6 million, I think it was $9 million, whatever that's in there.
We transferred, I think, $2.25 million to the capital improvement fund. It wasn't $6 million.
What's the total that's in there, because it was the prior year in the balance was $6 million. So what's the total that's in there currently?
It's either 6 or 8 million.
Not $6 million.
I mean, your finance person is there, can he not answer the question?
Well, I don't know if he knows the exact balance at this point in time, but.
Well, I'm sure you don't now, but thank
That
you.
was what was stated in the audit.
And so if you remember, Ms. Hartman, at the time the audit was done, the project at the current career center had not been completed. So there was still some lingering costs that were associated with that project. And so we discussed that as well. All of.
Was that $1 million or something like that? I'm thinking it was $1 million though,
What was $1 million?
that was left over for that was set aside.
I'm not following your question.
My understanding was there was $1 million in there, and that was held aside for that project. That was my understanding, that was stated to us at that time. And then the following meeting, that's when the audit was brought out. And it was $6 or $8 million that was in there.
You're talking about the capital improvement fund?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
question. So, Dr. Green, what we're talking about today is getting designs for what you're kind of looking at doing at Kelly Miller and the middle school.
Yes, sir.
So, just to try to head off any future confusion, are you anticipating any other projects that you may be looking at? I know, I wouldn't anticipate this is the complete list, but it may be, I don't know. Could you kind of let us know where we are on that?
In terms of renovations, Mr. Frick, the only thing that I may eventually bring back to the board to consider is maybe a field house addition at the football field. We still have the football team that are basically either dressing outside or dressing in two very old portables. And so with that said, that is something I would eventually like to see us address. I'm not sure, just looking at our budget capacity, whether that's something we could do this year. Quite honestly, I doubt that we could. But if you're asking me, ideally, if there were one other capital project that we could put into this whole equation this year, that would be it. Other than that, there are no other renovations as relates to facilities that I'd like to see addressed in this during this season.
So, Madam Chair, Dr. Green, are we taking care of the issues that were at high school?
What issues?
There were issues over there with the roof, and there are issues over there. If you go in that high school and you look at the corners of the wall, you can see crud along the corners of the wall. If you go down to the elementary school and look at the difference in those two, the floors, it's a night and day difference. There are some things on the stairways and things that need to be fixed. A lot of little things over at that high school. If you take a walk over there, and even in the auditorium, that needs attention. And the air conditioning at the high school, we've been hearing complaints about for a long time.
I think you brought that one up.
And so, as I said initially when I brought this forward, that there were many items. I mean, I identified a cooling tower that we were looking at the high school. I identified some technology enhancements. Before we're in a position that I could bring a comprehensive list to the board, we first need to get an idea of what the cost of these major projects would be. So that doesn't preclude us from pursuing anything else, Ms. McDaniel. I'm just saying we're trying to get a handle on potentially what the cost of those renovations are, so we can see what other capacity we have to address another thing.
I agree, when you list your items that need attention, you don't necessarily have to have the cost to know what needs attention. You can list the cost as you go, but to just put this one to rest, the issue is that you did not bring back to the board for approval from any 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever list of projects that we were going to do the additions at Kelly Miller, and we were going to do additions at the middle school. And like I said earlier, it's not about whether or not they're needed. We know they're needed. That's not an issue. We need a whole brand new high school and a whole brand new middle school. So that's not the issue. The issue is following the protocol.
And if I could try one final time to provide this clarification. What is being presented for approval is architectural service to come and give us some designs on potentially addressing those issues. I am not presenting this for approval to do the project. We've been getting architects to come in and say, in order to do the renovations that you want at Fairfield Middle School, it's going to cost $2.5 million. And in order to do the renovations you like to see at Kelly Miller, it's going to cost $1.5 million. And we simply don't have the capital to do that. So it doesn't mean that we are proceeding with anything. All it's doing is giving us information so we'll see exactly what the costs are, and then we can prioritize whether we move forward with those projects immediately. So I just want to be clear. What's coming before the board is not to move forward with a Kelly Miller renovation, is not to move forward with a middle school renovation. It is to move forward with a design so we can see potentially what the cost of those projects will be.
Dr. Green, you don't need a design to determine what the cost estimate is. You know, any engineer or architect can come in and look at what needs to be done and give you a general idea of what the cost is. But Madam Chair, what was the motion?
The motion is to approve the architectural services with FW Associates in Florence. That was the recommended architectural engineering firm.
Okay, so this is not going to be the architectural firm that handles the project. They're just giving us an estimate.
Pardon? This is the firm who would design the project.
And they're going to do the project.
If we do the project. So you have to have a design before you determine whether you're going to move forward with a project. And so, Ms. McDaniel, in terms of getting an estimate without a design, what construction firm can give you an estimate on a project if you don't have a design for them to evaluate?
You know, Dr. Green, if you bring the information to us like you should, you wouldn't have to be down there getting all upset like you are. Now, I'm asking questions so that I can be informed, and if you choose not to or choose to get upset, that's upon you. But in looking at this and reading this, it basically lets us know that this is the architectural firm that was going to be used, that this project is not one or two from a list of projects. You did not bring us a list of projects. And you move forward, and there's $2,000 in there somewhere. What's the $2,000 for? Okay, all right, thank you.
Dr. Green, Madam Chair, just like, I think what she's trying to say is, you know, just like we did the Career Center, we had a discussion prior to that, and and actually we were part of deciding who was the architects. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So why are we doing this the same way?
So in this particular situation right here, since this was a smaller project, a renovation, we did not involve the board in the selection process of an architect. We did that with a committee that was established in the district, at the district level, which is in line with our procurement process.
So that's fine, but the biggest thing, where I'm agreeing with Annie is it should have come to the board to at least approve the project to begin with. Thank you.
Can I have one follow-up?
Sure.
Dr. Green, so once we get these designs and you're able to prioritize, are you then going to be able to provide us a list of the projects that you're looking to do on the Capitol? Is that, I see you nodding yes, I just want to make sure.
So as you said earlier, Mr. Gray, once we get a list of potential costs associated with the various projects, the administration will prioritize what our recommendation is, and then I'll bring that back to the board for approval before we move forward with the completion of any projects.
Madam Chair, let me read this for Dr. Green, so I can make sure I'm not misinterpreting it. This says, Dr. Green, this is the information on the bid packet for AE services. FW Architects will provide AE services for the classroom additions at Fairfield Middle and Kelly Middle Schools, where school's not on it, at Fairfield Middle and Kelly Middle. The administration is asking for approval to move forward with these architects, or with architects from Florence, South Carolina.
That is correct.
That's correct.
Oh,
All right.
Dr. Green, you said completion of it. Don't you mean before you get started?
Before I get started,
Completion of the architect.
I think you said it would come back to the board before it's completed. Didn't you mean before it gets started? As far as actually to give their approved once we get the pricing in?
Right.
Thank you.
Correct. Mr. Miller?
No, I was
It's
ready
time to move, yep. We've exhausted that discussion, so we'll move forward with the vote. The superintendent has recommended the approval of the architect and engineering services with FW Architects of Florence. There's been a motion and a second. Those in favor signify by the raising of the right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposition? Abstention.
And Madam Chair, I would like the record to reflect that I'm abstaining because this was not adequately vetted through the board. Thank you.
Put mine down as against. Opposition.
So votes 5-1-1. Thank you, Ms. Brown. We'll move to curriculum and instruction.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For your approval are the 2016-17 local design courses as required by the state regulation that's found in your board packet on page 3, which states that the local board of trustees must approve all locally designed elective courses. All of these courses were approved previously, and the only new locally designed course is the African American Humanities course. The students will receive an elective credit for these courses, and these courses were designed to provide our students with the necessary basic fundamental skills before taking the actual course or test, and to reinforce concepts and skills taught in the core content courses. The new course, the African American Humanities course, which will be taught at Fairfield Central High School, is added due to student interest and will provide students with the opportunity to explore the African American experience from a historical context.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. The recommendation is from the superintendent that the board approve the locally designed courses for the 16-17 school year.
Madam Chair, make a motion we approve the locally designed courses for the 16-17 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Frick.
I second it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any discussion or questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. In the past, we've been told that we don't approve classes. Why are we doing this now?
And as we said multiple times, Ms. Hartman, the state requires that you approve locally designed courses yearly. That's not the entire curriculum, but specifically the locally designed courses have to be approved yearly.
These particular classes, are these helping our students to pass the tests that they have to take, like college boards and things like that? Do they include information that helps them on that?
Well, and so let me say this, Ms. Hartman. I would say that not specifically are these courses geared towards passing a college board. I'm assuming you're talking about SAT or ACT.
Yes, sir.
In its entirety. Let's say, for example, African American Studies, okay, which is a course that students have expressed interest in. I would say that that is a very good course that helps to maybe expand a student's knowledge of the world and history and all the things associated with the African American experience. And so everything that we provide a student is not necessarily geared towards the SAT or ACT. We are trying to provide students with a well-rounded educational experience, no different than culinary arts or any other course. And so Courses value should not be determined by its ability to assist the student in terms of being successful on the SAT or ACT. I think it contributes to a broader base of knowledge and a more well-rounded educational experience. And for that reason, that course is good. Now, in terms of some of the others, Algebra 1 seminar, English 1 seminar, I think what it does is to provide a more stable foundation for students to be successful on the state-administered inter-course assessment. And so, as you know, we administer Algebra 1 inter-course assessment, we administer an English 1 inter-course assessment, and these courses help establish a much firmer foundation so students can be successful at those particular state assessments. And so not necessarily about ACT or SAT.
Well, as far as also, I realize, I don't know what choices they have, and I know you had to have certain social studies classes to graduate, from high school. And of course, this is showing that, you get a credit for it. But again, I think we need to look at what the education is that they're getting to pass these tests if they are having problems with that area. Like to suggest that we look at that, as far as each student individually. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair. The defined minimum program that's in this packet is outdated. Do we have the most recent one?
Defined minimum program in the packet.
Yes.
You talking about the board regulation, Ms. McDaniel? I'm not quite sure what you're referring to.
The exact title says defined program grades 9 through 12 and graduation requirements.
Okay. And so I'm not sure exactly why that would be included in the packet. I mean, the only thing that we're voting on, the approval of locally designed courses.
Well, it appears, and I commend whoever put it in, it's just that it appears to be outdated, is that they put it in here so that we could have a clearer understanding of why and how the district is allowed to establish local courses. Because it outlines specifically how and why the law says that we can have the locally designed courses. But my concern with it being outdated was because it addressed HSAP, and we don't do HSAP anymore. And also on it, it has the asterisk by the 4 maths, or at least by 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm not sure what that asterisk means. And then when you look over at the 24 requirements, it states that we need 4 maths.
But we do need 4 math.
So the asterisk under instructional program, but I probably answered the wrong question when I stated this was outdated. And I guess what my question should be is, and I know a lot of times we ask for information and don't get it, but can we get the updated one? The updated guidelines?
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Ms. McDaniel, but I'll take a look at it and see.
Okay, who put the curriculum and instruction material in the board docs? Who gave it to whomever that put it in board docs? One of your staff persons, right?
Dr. Edwards, I'm quite sure was responsible.
Okay, so if you can have Dr. Edwards submit the updated one, or let us know that it's not updated, but yet we're not supposed to use HSAP and any other changes in it that might exist.
And so what I'll say, Ms. McDaniel, once again, I'm not seeing what you're seeing. Of course, we no longer administer HSAP. That was eliminated as of last year. It is possible that the state board has not updated that regulation as of yet. That's very possible. But we'll take a, Dr. Edwards.
Okay, the current policy was just revised the summer of 2015, and I will go ahead and email that now to everybody so everyone has the latest copy.
Thank you.
However, the regulation that is in question did not change, but in fact, I will go ahead and email it so that you will have it.
But if there are any other changes in this document, if we can know what they are.
Okay.
Do you have one where they're kind of like highlighted or?
No, but on this copy that's on the State Department's website is the most current copy, which I'm quite sure they did in fact remove the 8 stat references. So I will in fact send that to you, and then I'll highlight the changes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, also, is it possible, could we get a copy of what, I guess, an average colleges are, what extra units of what subjects for college? I know we have 24, but some colleges, like for example, expect, 30, and sometime it's certain sciences, certain Englishes that they're required to be able to go to college, right?
I think those are individual college requirements, and we would best be served to look those up on our own. That's not something that we can, I think is really efficient use of our time to get our staff to compile. So I think just out of curiosity, I'd say just look that up.
So the guidance wouldn't just have that written down to where you could have an idea of what most colleges do?
Again, I think those are links that are provided, so I would say just look that up if you're interested in that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hearing no further questions or discussion, we have a motion and a second. The recommendation is that the board approve the locally designed courses for 16-17 school year. Those in favor of those courses, please signify by the raising of the right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposition? 1. Abstention? Operations and Finance.
Good evening. In the board package, you have the December finance report for board review.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
question for the finance folk. If we can have the salaries and the current status of the budget, taking into consideration the accruals that are paid at the end of the year. You look at the budget and you think there's X number of pay periods left, but when it comes to teachers, there's 3 that will be a windfall at the end of the year, and for your 11, 10 months people, there are 2. So it may appear that there's money left at the in budgets where they're not. So can we have a status of where the budget currently is realistically, and not just based on what's been paid year to date?
I'm not really clear what you're asking. 10 month and 11 month is.
I thought you were supposed to be.
As we go along each month, I think she's saying, as it stands against the budget, what we stand at that time. Is that correct?
When
I
teachers,
think we asked this before.
Well, and I'm not sure what you want more than what's been provided, but
if you give me an opportunity, Madam Chair, I'll explain it to you. When you do your budget at the beginning of the year, your people who are paid in July for that fiscal year only encompasses your 12-month period, your 12-month people, and your 11-month, depending on whether or not their first check is in July or whether it's in August. Our fiscal year ends in June, but we still pay teachers July and August. So that's 3 checks coming from the teachers who make up the bulk of our payroll, or the bulk of our budget. So we're not really doing ourselves justice when we're looking at the report, and we're not able to determine where we are at the end of the year, taking into consideration the windfall of salaries that are going to be paid at the end of June.
not clear what you mean. I know what you're saying. I hear your words. I understand them, but I'm not sure that there is a windfall in June that you're talking. I'm not clear what you mean.
Teachers have a paycheck that's paid in July, 2 paychecks in July, correct me if I'm wrong, and a paycheck or 2 that's paid in August. Those paychecks are actually paid in the new year, new fiscal year that starts July 1st. But it's actually money that comes out of your budget for the prior year. Okay. So if you're looking at the budget, you may look at, say, a first grade class at, let's just say, Kelly Miller, And the budget may show that there's $500,000 there, but because you have those 3 windfalls of checks, if you analyze the budget, you can't make that determination because you're not sure. And the budget doesn't show, it's not showing what you spend every month. Because you have that windfall of salaries that you pay, that you accrue in the month of June.
And so, Madam Chair, if I may respond to that, Ms. McDaniel, what I would say to that is, we account for that as we plan the budget. And so, I guess I'm missing the value, if you will, of providing that information when we already anticipate that we are going to have to pay the entire salary by the end of the fiscal year.
You know, there's school districts in the state that had that same anticipation. And when they started doing some analysis, they found that they were not as on top of it as they were. And we have a fiduciary responsibility as board members. Now, whether anybody else want to do theirs or not, I want to do mine. And I'm just asking that we have the report that adequately reflects where we are at a particular point in time, which would be next month, the 7th month of the year, or the 8th month of the year. I mean, I'm not understanding why that's a problem. You say you already have it.
Well, we can discuss how that's a report. I'm just still confused about how that would be different from what we're seeing. We're seeing year-to-date, month-to-date, all that. Why would that not be?
Okay, let me try it again.
I understand what you're saying. I don't need for you to explain that to me, but again,
Yeah,
like Dr. Green said, what will be the value in that? We obviously, our audit was clean, the unbalanced received some of the overage as well as the capital improvement fund. So where's the question is that there, you know, the bottom line is the end of June. That was very clean audit.
Well, we should not have to wait till June, and it wasn't a very clear audit. There were adjustments that was made that wasn't shared with us. And it's not a matter of whether or not something is right or wrong. It's about December, half of the year is going through. If I look at the finance report, in certain areas, I should be able to see half of the budget that's been allocated. But I can't see it because of that windfall that's coming in. And there's no way that you manage in your budget if you have a windfall that's coming in during the month of June.
Okay. I mean, I know what you're saying, but.
Well, and so Chairman Reed, what I would say is that Kevin has done an excellent job of managing the budget, as evident by a surplus every single year since I've been here. And so, obviously, the management of the funds has not been an issue.
And I'm not saying it's an issue, Dr. Green. I'm only asking for the report to assume my fiduciary responsibility as a board member, and I'm not understanding why it's a problem.
Well, and so quite honestly, Ms. McDaniel, I would want to speak to Kevin to see how much additional work what you're asking entails.
So he's not monitoring. I thought you said earlier he was already monitoring it.
I said in terms of providing you whatever reports you're asking for, how much additional work that entails. As I said, it's obvious if we are paying a teacher $64,000 or $52,000 that we are going to have to pay that entire amount through the course of the fiscal year. That's what I mean in terms of accounting for that. I mean, it's obvious if a teacher makes X number of dollars, that is going to have to come out of the budget for that entire fiscal year.
And as the administration for this school board, that information should be provided to the board, and we really shouldn't have to ask for it.
We'll move on to Human Resources.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. For your approval this evening, you have HR item 1, certified resignations and terminations which can be found in Exhibit 1, where the superintendent recommends that the board approve the resignations and terminations for certified educators effective at the conclusion of the 2015-16 school year.
That would be, excuse me, Madam Chair, that would be, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the superintendent recommendation on certified resignation and termination. Provided a second.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you, Ms. Harrison, for the motion and the second. Given that those are personnel items and executive session discussion, we'll move forward with the vote. Those in favor of the superintendent's recommendation, please signify by raising of the right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you.
The next item for your approval are certified recommendations, where the superintendent recommends the board approve certified educators for the 2015-16 school year.
Madam Chair, I'd like to
Make a motion to accept the superintendent recommendation of certified recommendation, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr.
Provided a
Miller.
second, I'm sorry.
We got it. Thank you, Pastor Jackson.
I got paperwork here.
Okay. Those in favor of the superintendent's recommendation for professional certified staff, signify by raising of the right hand. We've got 6, 7. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would like the record to reflect my concern why I do support. I hope that we work a little harder to try to get staff with more years of experience.
We'll move just on to the board chair report. The board policy section B that we asked the School Board Association to review and suggest revisions has been placed in the side pockets for your information. We're going to leave it there for several months before we discuss or have any action on that, so that you'll have time to review and come back to the board with an informed discussion at that time. So at least 2 months, I'd say until this is January, we'll talk March or April about that, but it will just remain so that board members can review that. The intergovernmental meeting.
Madam Chair, before you leave that item,
yes,
if I may, is it really appropriate that, well, I won't say appropriate, but that we wait until March? When's the board meeting before we go to the annual conference?
The annual conference is next month.
I know it, but is it before or after the board meeting?
The board meeting is before, right?
That Tuesday
After
before
Tuesday
the conference, I believe.
Then wouldn't it be kind of fresh in our minds because we'll have classes and stuff?
But it's just so lengthy, I felt like just given the volume, that it was the time to get through it. And quite honestly, Ms. McDaniel, my thought was that we probably need a work session just dealing with it.
Because the whole, all of them are just, I thought you meant just the 3 that you have in here.
There's volumes in there.
I know it's a whole slew, but where's the whole slew? Because I'm only looking at 3 right here.
They'll come up eventually, probably. Yeah, there's thousands, there are a lot of pages, and that's why we have it electronically and not printed. It's many, many pages.
Okay, like, so when I click on B8, it's not just 1 page, there's several pages on it?
Yeah, and they're all, the whole section is different policies under section B.
Okay, well, I didn't notice that. I thought it was just the one.
And you can tell what changes are suggested?
They're in italics. And then there's also a sheet, like a cover sheet called a checklist or a revision checklist, something like that, so that it actually is a comprehensive list of the policies in which revisions were suggested. So you might want to go to that one first and sort of work your way through it, reading the
I sort
policies.
of went through a couple and I didn't notice some things, so.
Right,
Okay, I need
right.
to know what you are looking at that I'm not looking at, because when I click on BAA, it's just one, there's just one, policy that shows up.
Right, but then what I'm saying is that there are so many policies under B. You don't have like 30 policies under there?
Mhm.
Yeah, it'll come up eventually. It's just slow. It's the internet's slow.
I cutting up tonight.
I counted about 41.
41. So I can only understand the criticism that I would catch if I said, we're gonna vote on that at the next meeting. It would say, y'all would be down there saying, there hadn't been enough time for us to review this. There's not enough time. So we're gonna wait several months and give everybody time, because it is very lengthy. It is very lengthy. So it's there. And like I said, it's called the chart, I think is one of the things it's called, that gives you the revisions in a checklist form, and it's easier to go back and forth and see if or what revisions were made. So we'll move forward.
It's almost the second to the bottom.
So then Ms. Brown, we noticed that on the intergovernmental invitation, that's the first day of our conference. So if you would respond.
I talked to Mayor Herring today.
Okay, great.
And she said she was contacted by Ms. Hartman about it being a conflict with the board's travel. However, since they already have Representative Mary Gail Douglas and Creighton Coleman and several other people have already confirmed their attendance, she's going to see if they're able to adjust to another date, but if not, she does send her regrets if our board is not represented at that meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for doing that. Upcoming conferences, and we have,
Madam Chair, before you leave the intergovernmental meeting, and on this policies, can we have a hard copy of those? Or I guess I get some paper from you, but I can't print them with that little pencil, these policies, if I could have the printed copy. But as far as the intergovernmental meeting go, they should check with each group before the date is set for the intergovernmental meeting. So is there any way we can leave that message there with them when they schedule the next one, if they would check with everyone, so if someone is out of town, they have, because county council have an annual meeting they go to as well, and so does the city folk.
I think they adjusted it last year, but apparently because of the other commitments, they're not as willing this year. Last year, I'm pretty sure they adjusted it for our annual conference. So I think that you're right, that they should be made aware of that.
Yeah.
Especially when the entire board is not going to be represented. I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. Upcoming conferences, we've got formerly known as FRN, what's it called, Ms. McDaniel? The Advocacy Institute. Mr. Miller, Ms. McDaniel will be attending that. That's next week, am I correct on that?
This weekend.
And it's going to be really cold up there, so take your snow boots and your warm furry gloves and wrap up.
Are we going to have the momentums? I know we say gifts, but not really gifts. The little memoirs for the delegation.
I will have it ready on Friday, and I will give it to Mr. Miller.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then after that, we have the state conference, the School Board Association conference. I think we are all planning to attend that one. And then after that, the national conference, and I can't get that up right now. It's in Nashville. Is it Nashville this year?
No, it's not.
Boston. That was last year from Nashville. Okay, I'm here behind. And I can't see who's planning to attend that one. You will? Great. All right, and that concludes my report. Are there any other motions for adjournment?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fritz, for the motion to adjourn, Mr. Miller for the second. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. Y'all have safe travels
Thank you,
to
Madam
those
Chair.
conferences and see you next month.
Maybe have a tie-in somehow.